I'm Pastor Alan Jackson. We've had the privilege of partnering with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. It was an honor to stand with them. All of us are grieving Charlie's absence, but here's the reality. We have an assignment. We're not stopping. We're going to continue forward with what Charlie invested his life in. Now it's our turn to lead with faith. We're going to make an impact in this generation for the kingdom of God. We have some resources for you. You can go to alanjackson.com/Charlie. Together, we're going to make a difference in this generation.
Right now, we're going to welcome in Robbie Starbuck, friend of the show, friend of Charlie's. He's a filmmaker, host. He's a corporate activist, and he is now suing Google. I guess he did it yesterday. He announced it, and in a story that could only be described as legitimately dystopian. Robbie Starbuck, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show, my friend, and it's so good to have you back on the show.
Thank you, guys. It's good to see y'all.
Yeah. So you got Jack
What's up,
Posobiec here,
Robbie?
by the way.
How you doing, man?
There you go. And so you're suing Google. I mean, you have been absolutely tip of the spear on a lot of this corporate activism, de-wokeifying the corporations in America and the boardrooms, getting them to sort of come to their senses again, Robbie. But this story is crazy. It's like Google AI just created, this is Gemini? Or I guess there's three different names. You can explain it to us. But they basically are accusing you of having a criminal record and all of these allegations. And they not only invented the criminal record, but they invented fake victims, fake therapy records, fake court records, fake police records, So they built the whole novel like about your life that never existed. Tell us what's going on here. This is
unless Robbie, confirm for us right now. Are you in La Cosa Nostra? Were you part of this MBA scheme?
Yeah. Google would probably say yes. Yeah. But yeah, no, to rewind this, it started 2 years ago with their product called Bard. Bard had made up all kinds of crazy stuff saying that I was a supporter of the KKK and that it made arguments for why I should be put to death for offending leftists. And so, we raised the red flag to Google and said, hey, this is serious problem, needs to be fixed. So they were put on notice 2 years ago. And they obviously didn't fix anything because throughout the other iterations of their AI, Bard became Gemini, and then they have the DeepMind model called Gemma. Gemma is the most pervasively malicious model that they have put out. It has accused me of being an alleged child rapist, of being on the Epstein list, of being a shooter, being wanted for murder at one point, all kinds of crazy stuff. And here is the wildest part. It's not some, one-liner issue where it just invents something for one line and then it pops back into reality or something like that. No, this is a committed, elaborate lie where it names victims, it names evidence like therapy records, police documents, court records, and then it does something that I have never seen from any AI and can only be described as totally malicious. And it is that it adds in news articles. When you ask it to cite its sources, it will create fake articles from real media outlets. Jeez. So it'll say, oh yeah, read this story in Fox News, read this story in the Daily Wire, read this story in Human Events, read this story in MSNBC, and it'll even create a fake link and a fake headline to the story. So it's trying to launder the elaborate lies it tells by imitating and impersonating these media outlets that people maybe inherently trust, right? And so their hope is you don't click it. But if you do click it and you say, hey, these links don't work, it says, oh, don't worry about that. It will actually write a full fake article about these supposed events. So it leads the person to believe that this actually occurred. Unless you really, 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 really know me, like, my wife, you would question these things. It is so elaborate, so detailed. How could you not when it's naming victims, naming, Rolling Stone exposés, and all of these really intimate, horrible details of these alleged supposed rapes?
Oh, that's great. I mean, this is sort of like a worst case scenario AI, at least in its current iteration. I'm sure as the technology advances, we can think of even more elaborate and terrible things that could happen in the future, Robbie. But this is, and I want to get your. I'm not sure what you're allowed to even speculate on because of now you have a court case here. But like, my question is this the AI that has decided to target you maybe for some of your corporate activism, or do you think there's still a person behind this that basically put a digital AI hit on you, and then the AI has been unleashed to do its bidding of its master, or is it its own master?
You know what's interesting? I wish we knew the exact answer to that question. And I have my own opinion, but I think maybe the one I should put front and center is actually Google's AI and their opinion. Google's AI says that what it has done is so malicious, so consistent, and has so many different moving parts and so many unique lies. And the fact that Google hasn't fixed it leads it to believe, and it has said, that Google did this for political reasons. Their own AI said this, that there was a political reason for why this is occurring and why it hasn't been fixed. We didn't feed that answer to it. That is what Google's own artificial intelligence says repeatedly, not once, but many times. And so, to me, I sort of use Occam's razor, like what is the simplest answer? Because simplest answer is probably right. And simplest answer to me is that there's bias injected into it on purpose. Because Google, it's no secret, is a left-wing company. So that's my opinion. If you look at the company, the history of it, these are executives running this company who cried when Donald Trump was elected. You're telling me that these folks who have fought for policies like DEI and ingrained it throughout their organization are not giant, sort of enemies to what I fight for? Yeah, I'm sure they are, so it wouldn't surprise me if that is the case, because it's sort of the simplest answer that makes the most sense. And their AI seems to agree.
Jack, feel free to chime in here if you got questions, but I mean, I've got like 20 of them. So.
Well, so this reminds me, Robbie, of this Media Research Center article, this research piece that they just put out recently, where it's talking about, and this is beyond just Google's AI, but it's the actual Google main search engine, where they're talking about how if you search, apparently it's like, I have to look at the names again. I think it's like J.D. Vance, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec, a couple of other people. And if you search some of these names, the very first Google link that comes up is the disgraced far-left Antifa-linked organization of the SPLC, which so many people, including Elon Musk and the FBI, are no longer using as a credible source. And yet, for some reason, Google puts that as the very first result, which is an organization that just exists as a smear factory, when even by Google's own metrics, they used to say that the highest ranked ones are the ones that people cite the most. And you can't even find any actual, they found, MRC went through and they said we couldn't find any evidence to back up people citing this. So why is it the number one result?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that looks like intentionally poisoned data sets, right, and choices that the company is making. When you think about this, actually, to your point, the SPLC was cited by their AI in many cases as backup for the lies that it was inventing. So this is happening on their AI platforms as well. I will say this, my lawsuit at the end of it, I think one of the big goals here is you fix the bias long-term throughout Google products, because this just cannot happen. People need to understand there's a multitude of different second order effects from this type of behavior from a company, right? One is, think about the deployment of this sort of defamation during election seasons, right? So think about the closest seats, the ones that decide the balance of power in our country. If Google is allowed to deploy malicious AI that defames candidates, and they do it to the candidates they don't like, you could see an election where a bunch of the tightest races see the Republican candidates described with fake crimes that they never committed and associating them with the most heinous beliefs and things you possibly could, while you go and fluff up the resumes of leftists who are totally not, in a position where anybody should be electing them to even dog catcher, right? And so you could see the balance of power in the country decided by maliciously programmed AI. And the second, thing I would say is safety. I mean, this is the most obvious conversation, right? Google was linking to what I would describe as a very hateful group, the SPLC, who has this supposed hate list that looks more like a hit list, right? Yep. And then their AI is describing conservatives like me the way that we've seen it describe me and the way that it has framed me as a criminal. Yep. And so the end result is, what do you think they want to happen?
Exactly.
We could all end up victims the way Charlie was.
What you're getting to is so critically important. We talked about this actually. Jack was just profiled in the Atlantic this morning as, MAGA's top influencer or something to that effect. And we just got streamed with emails at freedom@charliekirk.com. Everybody's worried about Jack. I mean, we could put Jack back. Thank you. Everybody's worried about Jack, that this is putting a target on his back. I mean, I think post what happened with Charlie, everybody's terrified about that. And, rightfully so, but this is a new iteration in this battle for keeping our people safe and our activists safe, like you, Robbie. And I totally agree that this is, if somebody some left-wing lunatic on some Discord chat started quoting Gemini, or what did you call it, Gamma? Gemma. Like, if they start quoting this as an authoritative source, who knows who that would radicalize? Not to mention the defamation and the character assassination that this puts you in, but it 1,000% puts a target on your back. And, I think our audience would love to hear how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, the FBI right now is investigating multiple death threats against me, and a man was arrested in this last year for wanting to kill me. And so, natural question, did any of them read about me through Google AI platforms? We don't know, but I would like to know. I think that, it's not a leap to say somebody could be radicalized by this and try to kill somebody. Beyond me, though, like, this hasn't happened yet to the degree that I think it sadly will one day. But some of our families are in danger too, right? Like, some lunatic could make a mistake and think they're coming after one of us, and we're actually not there, and they actually attack our children or our wives. And I'm frankly dreading that day coming. I just feel like that is the next thing that's going to happen in this left-wing terror, because I know the types of threats that you guys and myself and our friends are getting, and they're increasing, they're escalating, and the tone is essentially nothing's off limits, right? We're not the only targets. And that's something that makes it very hard to sleep at night, and I think that these companies like Google are being grossly negligent in what they've done by essentially backing up the most radical lies about us.
Well said, Robbie. And I think Jack and I share your concerns. Our audience certainly does. We got 20 seconds. We're going to welcome back. Yeah. Oh, never mind. Go ahead. We're going to keep going, I believe.
No, just real quick. If we take steps to protect the Poso household, and if people want to find out just how big of supporters of the Second Amendment we are, they're welcome to find it.
Same here. And I think that's something that's critically important. I've been encouraging a lot of our friends to do the same thing. Like, you've got to be trained. Your spouse has got to be trained. My kids are trained, like, God forbid, but they're trained on how to handle a firearm competently, because God forbid that moment comes, some crazy person, which has happened before, they've shown up at our house. I want my kids to be able to defend themselves, so that's the crazy thing. We shouldn't have to live like this. I saw this tweet recently, like, only we have to live like this. And I don't want my enemies to live like this. I wouldn't wish it on their children or their spouses. And it's disgusting that is the case, but that's where we are. Another thing I'd throw out about this Google story, and this is sort of breaking here, is I am in contact with the House Judiciary Committee, and I think you're going to see a lot more on that angle very soon.